And then we find ourselves at verse 18, the last verse in our series of verses today, where Paul tells us, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with one another. Now, I think we can understand that there's an implication here when he says, if it is possible, that indeed there are times when it will not be possible. And although it can be done more often than sometimes we think, Paul does call us to make the extra effort to try as best we can to live in peace with everyone. Of course, not only our fellow brothers and sisters, but the lost world around us as well. Our author does point out, though, as he ends this particular session, that Paul knew that persecution was real and intensifying for the Romans in that day and age. And indeed, we continue to look at the world around us and continue to see persecution developing. Of course, it is more virulent in certain parts of the world, but it is here in America as well, and it's something that we need to be aware of and prepare ourselves for before we're confronted with it. Paul knew that persecution was real and intensifying. When faced with the choice between obeying the emperor and obeying God, the Roman believers' path was clear. And indeed, it's clear for us today as well. They could live at peace as best as they could, yet they had to stand for the faith, even if it caused conflict. Even if it causes conflict. And indeed, that's, as I mentioned a minute ago, that's something that I think we need to start preparing for. We shouldn't be surprised by it when it happens, because we live in a fallen world that's ultimately hostile to the message of Jesus Christ, and by extension, hostile to us. We need to be prepared to face persecution in its various forms and try to figure out how we're going to react and respond to that as these situations present themselves in our lives. Well, that's all that I have for this week's study. Next week, we're going to be moving on to Romans chapter 13, where we see the author telling us that believers should seek to represent Christ well in their communities and world. Thanks for joining me today. My prayer is that you have a wonderful and blessed Mother's Day.